Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, Mr. Tim. How are you?
Hi, Miss Wendy. Good afternoon, everybody.
We still have about another minute before we begin, but I want to welcome everyone, and of course, our special guest speaker, Mr. Tim, is going to give a part two of the fabulous presentation. And I expect a few more of your fellow classmates will join us. I hope everyone had a fabulous weekend. I know I did. I actually walked 5 miles yesterday, and I just could not get enough of the fresh air. I saw a red cardinal, two blue jays, a dove, and beautiful little spring flowers coming up out of the ground. The sun was shining on my face, and I think it's just what we need. It's been a long winter. We've been dealing with a pandemic. We're in front of computer screens all the time. So I highly recommend. It's probably the best medicine for anyone, just to get out, breathe in the fresh air. Of course, wear your mask, practice social distancing, but make sure you're taking care of yourselves and, enjoying life, because you're much more likely to be able to absorb new information when you're in school if you feel okay. And being outdoors makes a lot of people happy. Hey, Sanaya, how are you? Hey, Diaz.
I'm okay, and you?
I'm
Hi,
wonderful, thank you.
Hey, everybody.
hola,
So,
¿qué pasa?
hey, Diaz, what's happening? Anything new?
No,
All right, well, I'm glad you're here. So, once again, if you just joined us, we have our special presenter, Mr. Tim, back to see us again. And I'm absolutely delighted to have him here. He's got a lot of really good information for us. So, what I'm going to do is hand it over to you, Tim. And if you need me, I'm right here.
Wonderful. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Miss Wendy, thank you so much for the great introduction. It's awesome to be back with friends at Albany High School. And how's everybody today?
We can open up the
I'm doing
chat
good.
box.
Yeah, it
good,
is
how
a
are you?
great, outstanding. Anytime I'm based out of Syracuse, so anytime that SU basketball wins is a good day, especially when they're going to the Sweet 16. So I know not everybody is a sports fan, but if you are following the NCAA tournament, let's go Orange, right? And so I'm back in to talk about part two of Living Wage. And I'm going to kind of review some of the things that we talked about last presentation, which was just last week. So we set out in this class presentation to really focus and to accomplish 5 different things. Number one, we were hoping that at the end of the 2 presentations, everyone had a good understanding of the definitions for cost of living and living wage. And we wanted that everyone to have an understanding on how to research cost of living in your area. And then thirdly, we wanted you to have the ability to complete a cost of living calculator. And that was the homework assignment from last week. And then number 4 is after today's presentation, I want you to really just acknowledge and be aware that you don't fail into construction and building trades. And then finally, I want everybody to really understand what unions fight for. And those 3 components of collective bargaining, again, is living wage, benefits for our members and families, and the opportunity to retire with dignity. So this term living wage continues to come up. And we've heard it before. It's one of the goals. So it's not really rocket science, right? It's not some magic secret formula with all kinds of special sauce. Cost of living, right? To review Kenzie's video is what it costs in a particular area to afford basic necessities such as housing, food, transportation, technology. Remember, we added technology because can you imagine not having broadband access or not having a smartphone in today's world, especially during the pandemic where classes have gone all virtual, right? But also applying for jobs and learning about open houses and applying to college and applying for the military. Everything today has been moved towards online. So there's a cost with that. So that's become a basic necessity. But also childcare costs and insurance costs, and specifically medical, dental, vision, prescription, eyeglasses, and those types of costs. So that is the cost of living in a market. So remember what we talked about and what we learned is that the cost of living in Albany County and the city of Albany is different than it is in New York City. It's different than it is in San Francisco, different than Chicago. It's different regionally, right? So there's a different cost of living for folks that live in the Northeast compared to those that live in the South, where they don't have higher utility costs because it's colder. This is a colder climate. Or their taxes may not be as much because they don't have to deal with the sand, the ice, the snow, you know, the Northeast rugged climate that we live in. And all those factors of living in a tougher climate make it more expensive in some cases to live in the Northeast. There's also a difference between cost of living in an urban area than a rural area, right? So there's many factors that go into that cost of living. And then the living wage we learned about is what does it take to afford those basic necessities in a particular area. Like what wage do you need to earn to pay for those basic needs? So remember our resource was the ALICE project resource, which is a United Way program that stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed, and a massive database. So I'm hoping that some of you did take me up on the opportunity and the offer and the invite to explore ALICE, to walk yourself around that database, to get lost in it, to ask yourself questions about it, and to really just think is that, you know what, I like data crunching. I like using data that's going to help somebody else out, and maybe my pathway is to become an advocate. Maybe my pathway is to become an attorney where I represent those that are below the ALICE level, or in workforce development, let's focus on providing great careers for people that are in that level, right? So that's kind of what I do for a living, is I use that data to help us paint a picture on the definition of what a good job is. So that's kind of a refresher. So now what I want to do is kind of shift gears, because when we talk about labor unions, right, and that's who I'm from. So full disclosure, I'm an outreach and recruitment specialist with Local 669, America's Fire Suppression Union. And we have been fighting for living wage, there's that term again, as one of the key things that we represent our workers for, what we do for our workers, what we provide our membership, right? Our brothers and sisters in the union through solidarity, we fight for a living wage because we know, just like you know now, that the cost of those essentials has increased dramatically over the last 20 years, right? So we learned that from last presentation, that the cost of housing has gone up 33%. The cost of healthcare premiums has gone up 73%. The cost of transportation has gone up 30%, right? And then we also learned that there is a disparity between the top income earners, the top 10%, and the rest of us. That in that same time frame, as these essentials became more expensive, their wages increased over 30%. Whereas our wages, in some cases, decreased, but we're well below that 30%. So I've got a guest presenter. His name is Mr. Robert Reich. He is the former Secretary of Labor for President Obama during the Obama administration. And he's going to talk about why unions matter, and he's going to really dive into those economics and the business math conversation that we've been having over the last 2 weeks.
As I travel around the country, I tell people, if you have a job, join a union. And if you don't have a union, start one. You see, it all comes down to the balance of power between business and workers. You strengthen the middle class by strengthening unions. In the mid-1950s, unions were strong, and wages grew in tandem with the economy. Nearly 1/3 of all workers in the United States were unionized. This gave workers across America, even those who weren't unionized, significant power to demand and get better wages, hours, benefits, and working conditions. Yet starting in the 1980s, with increasing ferocity since then, private sector employers have fought against unions. Corporate raiders demanded that companies boost share prices by busting unions and moving to non-union states. Ronald Reagan's administration fired the nation's unionized air traffic controllers and launched an all-out assault on workers' rights, concentrating even more power in the hands of corporate executives. In short, anti-worker corporations and politicians joined together to stop workers from joining together. We now know that as union membership declined, middle-class incomes shrank. The two trends are the exact mirror images of each other. The wealthy and big corporations continued to take a larger share of the nation's wealth, while workers were left behind. Unions balance the power of workers with corporations by allowing workers to join forces to get a fair share. As an individual, your voice is limited, but there is power in numbers. Today, unions are more important than ever to the survival of the middle class. Corporations have tremendous power over our lives, dictating everything from bathroom breaks to health care for millions of Americans. In the halls of Washington and state legislatures, their political power has allowed them to block increases in the minimum wage, roll back workplace protections, and deny workers their benefits. Unless workers balance the power of big corporations, the middle class will continue to get a smaller piece of the pie as more and more wealth goes to those at the top. Unions are also essential to the workplace of the future. Workers must contend with the forces of globalization and technological change. With the stroke of a keyboard, executives can now send jobs overseas. Automated technologies threaten to replace workers in every sector of the economy, making jobs less and less secure. Without unions, workers will be completely at the mercy of these trends. This isn't just a theoretical argument. The tangible, real-world examples of how unions make workers' lives better are everywhere you look. Hospitality workers were able to secure raises and job protections from Marriott, the world's largest hotel chain, because of the power of their union. Disney employees secured a $15 an hour base pay after years of opposition from management. JetBlue's flight crews have unionized to negotiate better wages and more flexible schedules. We must continue to expand unions to restore balance to our economy. In 2017, more than 250,000 additional American workers joined unions, and research shows almost 60 million more workers would like to join if they had the opportunity. Public approval of labor unions is at 62%, a 15-year high. That's why powerful corporations and their enablers in government are trying to squash workers by pushing so-called right-to-work laws and undermining health care, workplace safety, and retirement protections. We have the power to overcome these attacks. If you want a better life for you and your children, join a union. And if you want a better America, support unions. As I travel around the country,
Okay, so very powerful presentation by Mr. Reich, and he just goes through really just the decline of the middle class and the correlation between union membership. And we're talking about a lot of it is the exercise that you all completed on living wage and cost of living in your particular market. So what I want to do over the next few minutes here is I want to talk more truth. I want you to find your own truth. And maybe there's some things that you've heard in the past that aren't necessarily true. So here's one as an example. Has anyone heard the messaging that the only way to be successful is to get a white-collar job, which is an office job, a professional job, and a 4-year degree? Got to go to college, got to go to college. Well, that is one pathway to success. And if that is your goal and that's what you're focused on, I am 100% high five, go make it happen, you know, and be very supportive of that. There's a number of individuals on this call right now that are going to pursue a career in healthcare, pursue a career in nursing, and that may lead to going on to medical school or to become a nurse practitioner or to become you know, an LPN or an RN. So that's a pathway, right? But it's not the only way. So if you're not focused and you're not bought into going to get a 4-year degree and going on to college, there is other ways to become successful. And the building trades is one of those ways. And what's also striking and concerning, it should be to you, is that there's actually 43 million Americans today, 43 million Americans today that are carrying a significant student loan debt. And again, those that borrow on average is $17,000. That's a payment, a loan payment of $380 a month. Gone right off the top. So let's jump ahead here. Let's watch Morpheus and Neo. And this is going to help us understand the truth, because I want to just talk the truth with you.
After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. Follow me. After this, there...
Okay, so finding your truth, and one of the biggest things that you're going to do in your lifetime is to find your career. So what is the definition of a good job? I mean, at the end of school, right? We go to school for a reason. We go to school to learn. We go to school to learn about academics. We learn how to socialize. We learn about these soft skills of discipline and hard work. And gosh, we've all been tested during this pandemic. So we've learned about perseverance. We've learned about that positive attitude. We've learned about picking each other up, that we're not in this by ourselves, we're in this together, right? So those are all those character building things that we learn, but we also learn what career path that we want to follow. You know, where's your road? Where's your truth? So what is a definition of a good job, right? And most people would say it's one that comes with a nice paycheck, reasonable work hours, a health and safe work environment, and benefits. Right? So benefits, again, medical, dental, vision, prescription, and then retirement benefits. But also a good job is something, especially your generation gets this, right? You all get this when they do studies of your generation compared to others. You all get your focus, your generation's focused on worthwhile work. And your generation wants to know, is your job or your career going to help the greater good? Is it going to help the community? Is it going to help your family? Is it going to help the environment? Is it going to help someone that is less fortunate, right? So your generation is going to pull us out of this pandemic. I'm convinced of that. So worthwhile work is part of the definition of a good job, right? So one thing that we offer in the building trades is that nice paycheck, reasonable hours, a health and safe work environment. It's hard work. I mean, you're working outside in the elements. This is construction. But we back that up with benefits and a living wage and the opportunity to retire with dignity. But we also are doing tangible work. We're doing hands-on work. And a lot of people are drawn to that. They want to see at the end of the day, look, I accomplished this, or to drive by and show their kids or their grandkids, you know what? 40 years ago, I built that building. 40 years ago, I built that train station. 40 years ago, I built that school. I built that hospital, right? That's something that stays with you that you can take great pride in, right? People also like the trades because of the teamwork. We're working in a team atmosphere. And then finally, we are protecting our community. We are giving back. Yeah, let's think about this. We're in the middle of this pandemic, and air quality, what we breathe, has become so vital. We took that for granted. So in the next number of years, what's going to be a real big focus in our country is the upgrade, the infrastructure rebuild of things like ventilation systems, right? Heating systems, air conditioning systems. And that's where my union, and it's international, which is the United Association of Journey Worker and Apprentice Welders, Plumbers, Pipe Fitters, Steam Fitters, HVAC refrigeration techs, right? So that's HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration techs, and sprinkler fitters. That's what we do. The UA's plumbers have actually written the CDC's policy on water quality. Right? So if you do some quick research, and maybe you're a history buff, or you want to get into public policy, and you look at Flint, Michigan, and the water crisis, and you learn about lead in the pipes, you learn about an infrastructure that's eroding. Or maybe you want to get into urban planning, or you want to get into civil engineering where you're designing these systems. Or maybe you want to get into the trades where you work for the UA and you're actually installing and repairing and testing and maintaining water systems because it protects our communities. The Egyptians were the first documented civilization to have plumbers. Can you imagine if we didn't have sanitation today? Think about all the people in your classroom, in your school, on your block, and they didn't have sewage, right? So they didn't have, water treatment systems, that took the waste that we created, right, and doing something with them. That's what plumbers do, right? They're protecting at a core basic level, protecting the community. So that's part of a definition of a good job. The other thing that we fight for, again, is collective bargaining. And Mr. Reich talked about that. And we fight for living wage. And that's why he said join a union, because we fight for living wage. Because we understand in each area, each market, what does it cost to live? And then we come back after that cost of living understanding, and we fight for our members to earn that living wage. And on top of that, to have benefits for themselves and their families, and then have the opportunity to retire with dignity, right? So there's a lot of things that go into the definition of a good job. So just to kind of dive back into the numbers again, right? Remember this exercise from 3 weeks ago. It was an attendance exercise where we had careers that you gave me some of the career vocations, you gave me some of the vacations, and I mixed up the salary. Right, so here's what it comes down to, right? Union sprinkler fitter, my trade, fire suppression systems. Journey worker is earning before overtime $78,228 a year. And then you have, of course, doctor and psychiatrist. Psychiatrist is $235, right? And that came from that spreadsheet that you had, right, to do your homework assignment. But one difference between the sprinkler fitter and the psychiatrist is that psychiatrist is going to have to go to additional schooling. They're going to have to get their bachelor's degree. Then they're going to go on after those 4 years and get a 2-year master's degree. Then they're going to go on and get their PhD, or if they're a doctor of medicine. So we're talking an additional potentially 8 years of school with a cost of that, right? loan payments, right? Not earning money. So from day one in the trade, you're earning while you learn. So let's talk about, what a union is, right? And I'm not going to get into the history back to the Industrial Revolution, but I just want to use this video here just to kind of, this is what we do. We stick together. This is the core essence of what labor unions are.
It's smarter to travel in groups.
Okay. So nice little animation there. We work together, we stick together, and that's called solidarity. And that gives us the ability to fight for together, collectively, that living wage, benefits for our members and families, and the opportunity to retire with dignity. So the next part of today's conversation is my living wage calculator. So I'm going to show you what I filled out. So just to review again, the information from ALICE, Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed Database. And I'm hoping some of you, again, have an opportunity to go through there and just play around, get lost in the database. This is a snapshot of Albany County. So remember that there's three major buckets: one adult, two adults with one working, one at home, two adults both working. And then there's subcategories: one adult with 0 children, one adult with 1 child, one adult with 2 children, one adult with 3 children. And then for each major category, those same subcategories are repeated, right? And then we have the necessities: food, childcare, medical, housing, transportation, right? So that's listed. And then we have the income that you need to have a living wage and not be a Alice household in that market. What that household needs to earn with the number of children that they have, right? So you had that summary sheet. That was part of the homework assignment and the resource. So here's what I filled out. All right. So this is Tim participating, and my job is sprinkler fitter, journey worker. Number of children in my household: 2. Spouse: yes. Working: yes. Both are working. Okay, so I went to the resource. For housing, I plugged in the yearly cost. Okay. You can see, 2 children, 2 parents both working, $13,380. Okay. Oh, I'm going the wrong direction here. There we go. Okay. So I kept going back to my ALICE summary sheet to give me the data for Albany County. Groceries, right? And on ALICE, I call it groceries. On ALICE, it was listed as food, right? So for 2 children, 2 adults, the yearly cost was $10,303. Benefits, right? Childcare, healthcare, right? I listed 0 because I'm a represented worker. I'm a union member of Local 669, where the collective bargaining, the union represented me and negotiated with my contractor, who I work for, that they pay our benefits, right? So that's why Robert Reich talked about, right? The middle class and the opportunity where back in the heyday where more people were in unions that had that collective bargaining, right? The middle class was stronger. So benefits for me, maybe not for you, depending on what career you picked, there's no cost of it. Technology, that was not auto calculate, so everybody's the same. You know, it's $2,400 a year. Student loan, remember that's a drop down, and on your calculator, if you were needed to have a college degree, you did the drop down and it auto populated at 380. If you had a master's degree or need to get a master's degree, it would calculate, I think it was 720, or if you needed a PhD, it was over $1,000, right? $1,000 a month in a loan payment. Transportation, we went back to Alice again. Retirement costs, what you contribute to your retirement, I put 0 because we fight for our members to have the opportunity to retire with dignity, and we offer multiple retirement plans that are no cost to the member. You can contribute to it, so maybe your cost does go up in addition to what's being contributed. Childcare, huge expense, right? So I'm not fudging the numbers here. My yearly cost for childcare, 2 children and a household with 2 adults, both working, my yearly cost for healthcare or for childcare, $23,597, right? That's huge. So that totaled up. This calculator gives you the monthly expense. So it took all these numbers, divided it by 12. So I have expenses, cost of living in the Albany area as a sprinkler fitter of $5,149.66. Now I went to the next section and I used resource A, that was part of our homework attachment, and a union sprinkler fitter journey worker. My base rate is $37.61 an hour in the Albany area. I work 40 hours a week. All right, so the calculator tells us what the monthly income is, and the leftover after expenses, right? That's what we want to know. Do I have more money after I pay my bills, pay my necessities, the $5,149.66? Well, I had an income over $6,300, so I have left over $1,168.82. That's my money that I can spend. I'm not playing a shell game to make ends meet. So I can contribute more to my retirement. I can buy a boat. I can go on vacation. I can put money aside for my kids to have participation in sporting programs, to participate in college for a college fund, right? So that's the money that's left over. All right, so some of you all, depending on what you plugged in, found that you were in a negative number. Okay, that's the truth, right? So this is not a graded homework assignment. This is for you to find your truth, to play around with the numbers, to identify, okay, what is a good job? You know, where do I see myself fitting in? And looking at that massive database with all these careers as far as what are you going to pursue, right? So again, it comes down to, why are you in school? Well, you're in school to learn. You're in school to learn those soft skills, but you're also in school to learn, you know, where do you see yourself fitting in, and where do you want to fit in? So I shared all this information with you, not to try to get everyone to become a sprinkler fitter, because you're not, right? And frankly, maybe none of you and your classmates will have an interest to becoming a sprinkler fitter. But maybe one of you will want to be a carpenter. Maybe someone else will want to be an HVAC tech. Maybe somebody else wants to become an iron worker. Maybe someone else wants to become a sheet metal worker. So that is success for me. But more importantly, my role is to help create awareness, because what I don't want is what happened to me and happened to so many others, is people would turn around and say, boy, I wish I would have known about these jobs. boy, I wish I would have known about the trades. Boy, I wish I would have known that that was even an opportunity for me, right? So this is to help shake the tree, create awareness, and get you to the point where you're doing some follow-on work to pursue your truth. So to learn more about 669, which is America's Fire Protection Union, you can go to training669.org. That's www.training669.org. You can reach out to me. I'm the recruitment and outreach specialist. That's my contact information. So at this point, I'd like to open up the conversation and entertain some questions.
Tim, I have a question. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about the two videos that you had recommended? And I'm particularly interested in the one about women in the trades.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely. So the sprinkler fitters, America's Fire Protection Union, we handle all incoming water supply into the building and the installation of the overhead fire suppression systems. Right? And so there's 2,000 different types of sprinkler heads. 80% of what we put in is water, but there's also chemical, foam, antifreeze systems. We've been around since 1915. There's 14,000 members, and we're in 48 states. We have had in the pipe trades that we're part of, that's our international, right? You talk about strength in numbers. Our international has 355,000 members in 300 locations. We've had an increase of 78% participation, new enrollment of women into the pipe trades. These careers are for everyone. It doesn't matter what your gender is, what your gender preference is. It doesn't matter what your race is, what your creed is, what your nationality is. As long as you meet those basic requirements, you have an opportunity, right? Cornell University cited that over the last 100 years that union apprenticeship programs has been the #1 pathway into the middle class, right? Part of that is because of our social justice is that, you know what, if you're a woman, you're going to make the exact same as a man if you're an apprentice one, right? An apprentice one makes the same as an apprentice one. A journey worker woman makes the same as a journey worker man. So that video really is to dispel any untruth, to help you find your truth, that these are careers that are available to anyone. So, but the truth of the matter, though, is, Miss Wendy, is that women have been doing this work for years. I mean, we probably remember during World War II, there was a generation called Rosie the Riveters. These women built planes and tanks and built the ships. I have two aunts that worked in Chicago that were building communication equipment, radio technology equipment, radar equipment. They were building that while the men were overseas. They were fighting the war. So it's nothing new. But it's important, too, that when you watch that video called Women in Construction, is to realize that when we had this discussion to tie it together about cost of living and living wage, 50% of women are in low wage industries. So this is an opportunity for women to find career paths that offer a living wage. And that's part of my role, is to make sure that every woman that's in this class understands that hey, this opportunity is open to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tim.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Any other questions?
Folks, it's okay to use the chat box, or you can verbally ask your questions. Or maybe you're just thinking right now and digesting a lot of really good information. So that's okay too. But we will be checking out both videos, Tim, as I think they're going to be incredibly helpful and really good, follow-up work for us. And as always, we are incredibly incredibly thankful for your expertise and for taking the time out of your day today to join us. And for all of the students in this class, I want you to remember that professional etiquette, we've talked about that before. It's about saying please, thank you, showing gratitude, and it will really help you throughout your lifetime. So what I would like you to do, either in the chat box or verbally, you should thank Mr. Tim. All right, I'm going to thank him in the chat box too. Nice little.
Miss Jackson, Miss Jackson, you've got a question?
That was me. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for giving us a lot of information, especially in the work life, because there's a lot of people our age that are working and don't understand like the opportunities and the benefits of being in a union. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Ebony, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
Yeah, thanks for taking the lead and being a leader and sharing that. And one thing, there is a question, Amari, thank you very much. Something that came up in another class was, so how do you get in? What do unions provide? So I wanted to cover this because this is really, really powerful. And again, this is information, right? So in 1911, the state of Wisconsin passed the State Apprenticeship Act, that authorized union apprentices. In 1937, the U.S. Congress and the federal government, so out of Washington, D.C., they passed the Fitzgerald Act, which was the National Apprenticeship Act. And 3 weeks ago, H.R. 447, so that was a bill introduced in Congress, passed the House of Representatives, moves to the Senate, and then President Biden will sign off on it, which is the reauthorization of that 1937 Act. So what is an apprenticeship? It's a term that's misused today. And I think it's important because every place you go, somebody's going to say the term, we have an apprenticeship program, and some are a month long, some are 2 months long. And just because someone has a neat set of tools or a company jingle or a van doesn't mean that it's a real registered apprenticeship program. So the labor unions in the building trades since 1937, these registered apprenticeship programs, it's a combination or a collaboration and a combination of on-the-job training and technical instruction. So each of these 15 trades has apprenticeship programs. Some are 3 years, some are 4 years, some are 5. The UA, the pipe trades, including the sprinkler fitters, ours is a 5-year program. So it's earn while you learn. You get paid from day one. And you are in a registered curriculum that's leading to become that gold standard, which is journey worker, right? And so there's a registered curriculum at Albany High School. The gold standard at Albany High School and in our high school system is for you to become a high school graduate, right? And to get that, to get that diploma or to get that Regents diploma. So that's the gold standard. Ours is to become a journey worker. So just like you have a registered curriculum, we have one. So ours is 10,000 hours of on-the-job training and 1,200 hours of technical instruction, right, over 5 years. So 2,000 hours of on-the-job training each year for 5 years. As long as you keep up with the educational part, every 6 months you get a pay increase. So it's a leveled increase as you gain experience and knowledge to the point where you become a journey worker. And when you're a journey worker in Albany as a sprinkler fitter, you're earning $37.61 an hour, right? We saw that from that slide. That's a real number that I gave you, right? That was part of our collective bargaining, right? So in addition to that, you're going to earn college credit. You're going to earn 32 college credit hours that we paid for. We pay for your books. We pay for your tools. And the credits will be applied to a degree in construction technology. So 15 different trades that make up North American Building Trades Union. You ask, well, you have to pay union dues. Well, our union dues are $28 a month. Well, guess where some of that money goes? It goes to training and education. Collectively, union, strength in numbers, we invested $1.6 billion in training and education in 2019. That makes us larger than the entire SUNY school system combined, right? So in addition to fighting for workers' rights, the building trades unions have been training and developing young women and men, and that's why Cornell said this is the #1 pathway to the middle class for a long time, right? So that was a great question that someone brought up. I just wanted to cover that. Ebony,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And Travis, you want to jump in on this?
Yeah. Now, gotta be honest here. Like, you're kind of right, but I mean, I bet the rich people might have noticed that, and probably, like, you know how greedy they can get. They might have come up with some sort of scheme or something, or how.
No, I'm with you. Just keep going with that.
All I'm saying is that, like nowadays, most of their money is being used to help people, which they don't want because they're greedy and they want to keep the money all for themselves. Oh,
yeah, and that's so we represent,
and
unions
we
represent
the workers who need money, who need it most.
Yeah.
Compared to the rich people who use it for their own purposes rather than people's own needs.
Yeah.
And that's why the union was made.
I think that's a great point. Now, I also want to share that in the building trades, a lot of our signatory contractors, the business owners, are union members, right? So a lot of our contractors came up through the ranks, and that's the opportunity that we provide. And there isn't that clashing between us, because we have this feeling is that if we win, our contractors win. And our contractors in a lot of cases are union sisters and brothers, and they're like, hey, if you win, I win, let's work together. And they get it. And then we also want our contractors to win, because that means they can go out, bid on more work, get more work. So for the most part, when it comes to these privatized unions in the building trades, there is a lot of collaboration. So what we focus on are and we don't have anything against non-unionized workers. We love them, right? We want to make sure that they have the same opportunities that we have, right? So when it comes to our contractors that are signatory, sometimes we have disagreements, but for the most part, we are 100% aligned. We both want to win, we want to have success, and we provide the most professional product and service of installation, testing, and maintenance of fire suppression systems in the world. I mean, that's our common purpose. But thank you, Travis. Said it very well, man.
Tim, once again, you've provided us with a lot to think about, and also some really good tools and websites to visit. So, I'm really thankful for that. And I know that each student in this classroom, they will walk away from this presentation as they did from presentation #1, knowing more than they did when they walked into the classroom today. And remember, kids, I've always told you, none of us know what all of us know. And it's always good to have an expert in the room. And we've talked about how you don't always want to be the smartest person in the room, because you want to learn from others and grow. And sometimes it challenges us. I know with myself, I like to be, the one who knows everything, but guess what? I don't. And that's why it's good to bring people like Mr. Tim into our class and other experts, because they have a lot of good information for us, and they are going to help us to grow. And then who knows, then you might be able to take that information that you've learned and go and share it with someone else. So it has a rippling effect. So I'm incredibly thankful.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful for everyone, and I appreciate the opportunity to learn from everyone. And I'm hoping I can get a copy of this recording, because the class participation was just fantastic in the chat room, and then also just Ebony Jackson Ebony leading the way of just standing up and just sharing what she wanted to share. So thank you, and thank you, Travis.
Excellent. Well, if you are all set, thank you again, and I'll be talking to you again. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 11, and then again at 1:30, and then 3:30.
Yep, I look forward to it. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great day. Hope you get
Have
to
a good
enjoy the
one,
weather.
Mr. Coleman.
Okay, you too, Ms. Jackson. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, kiddos. So we have learned a great deal of information today. So I'm not going to give you much more. The assignments that you have with the checking account word problems, that's not due until tomorrow. So for today, just complete your do now in your daily attendance, and then you are done for the day. I think you've got a lot to think about, and if you want to check out the website that Mr. Tim asked us to check out, it's www.training669.org. And there's a lot of terrific videos on there. As he had mentioned, there's a really good one about women in the trades. So that's something to take a look at as well. I hope you have an awesome day. I'm so glad to see everyone again. And I will see you, when will I see you? Wednesday. All right. So take care. And if you have any questions, you know that I'll always keep the meet open until the end of class if you need me. Okay.
Now I have a question.